He told me just a good story. He said to move on and keep going. Imagine we had one more life, one more shot at sunrise. The rays and things start with new eyes. Heartbreak the same tragic goodbyes. What if this way? Nightstand, not to reminisce, just a reminder to never go back to a life we shared. Anytime I'm feeling the urge to look at a picture, oh, I get so confused, 'cause I swear I have no hope for you.
One, two, coming off the top, y'all know how we do. Listen, I'ma drop a freestyle you can cherish. I'ma send a shout out to the host named Eric. Yo, he's never on some average shit. You know Eric, he stays loud and passionate. I'm about to break it down for y'all with the clever song. Yo, shout the host named Thomas, 'cause he's never wrong. Yo, shout to John, you know that he's smart and quiet, unlike my freestyles, which cause a riot. I'm about to do it like this, 'cause the people love me. Shouts out to PHP the Ugly. It's called ugly 'cause it's not professional, but I'm about to come through and bless it with style. So let's do it when I'm spitting. I perfume the room. Yo, the segment of the show is called Doom and Gloom. That came from Thomas. Yeah, can nobody go beyond this? I get the mic and then I'm about to keep it like a promise. Yeah, and y'all know we fill them up with anguish. We talking about the PHP, the programming language. About to break it down, no exaggeration. What do y'all do for a living? Web applications. Okay, I can dig it. My words spray tight. They getting together on the Thursday nights. Yeah, when it comes to rhyming, you can call me the new dude. I spew true lyrics while y'all broadcast on YouTube. So let's get it. You know my lyrics are major. All up in the comments, they got plenty of haters, but they doing what they doing. Keep it ugly. We ending every show with the saying it's lovely. Let's go. Hey, shout out to y'all. Peace to the whole squad, man. Hope your channel is doing real well on YouTube. Hope you guys are having fun. And it was an honor and blessing to do this little custom freestyle for y'all. Hope you enjoy. Stay up. Yeah. Come on. Hey.
It's Thursday, April 13th, 2023, and you're listening to episode 331 of the PHPUgly podcast. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. We are a weekly podcast that focuses loosely on the PHP programming language and its community. We talk about tech news and our work life and what we do. We're all, we can't say we're all developers anymore. We're going to address that on the show because I don't know how to introduce us anymore. Some of us are developers for sure, but yeah, we record live every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Pacific time. If you want to be part of the live show and the live stream, you can do that by joining us in our Discord channel at discord.phpUgly. It's a great place to be all week long. People hang out and have fantastic conversations. The show's made a little better thanks to some support from our sponsors, JetBrains, PhpStorm, and HoneyBadger.io. as well as our supporters on Patreon. We'll revisit all that a little later in the show. But for now, I am one of your hosts, Eric Van Johnson, and my fellow comrades in coding with me tonight is John Congdon.
You said we talk about our work life, and I thought you said we often talk about our work wife.
You're my work wife, John.
I know. That's that's where I was going with that.
And Tom Rideout.
Hello. My cat is
Hello,
my
Tom.
work wife.
Oh, you got a server rack in there, obviously.
It's nice and warm in here.
Warm and loud.
Is it
I'm
loud
sure
again?
it's totally worth
Yes.
it.
You know, those quiet fans you bought.
All right,
You don't
let's
believe
go around the horn one time. John, how was your week?
Coding wise, not great. I mean, I got some things done. Couple PRs open, things fixed. My stepmom was in town from upstate New York, and my kids got some grandma time, and we just had a blast doing a lot of fun things around San Diego. Ultimately, heading back to a place we got her on the beach, just to hang out, go swimming. It was a good week, and lots of tech stuff, which I'm sure we'll get to later.
We definitely will get to.
Lots.
Tom, how about yourself?
Tech stuff. PHP tech, I assume?
Yes.
I've had a great coding week. I've got some bug fixes for bad cache values. You know,
Gotta love that.
when you have like a function that has an argument like is active true or false, and you don't store that in the cache key, then you just cache whichever one was the most recent, and it ignores.
So let's put this out on the table right now. Do you still consider yourself a developer?
Yeah, absolutely.
I can still say 3 PHP
I
developers.
pushed 2 commits today.
Is there something
two
that happened that I
PRs.
don't know about, or didn't pay attention to?
No, I do a lot of tech lead stuff now, which isn't always development, but it's still tech. It's still to do with the process of development and helping other developers. And you know, right now I'm in a big bug fix mode. We're going through logs and clearing them out.
It sounds like Eric tried to ask you for help, and you said, "No, I'm not a developer anymore."
He doesn't ask me for help anymore. I think it's because I complain about the line number mode every time.
I'm sure that's part of it.
No, I mean, it came up a few weeks back where he kept saying, I don't do any development anymore. And I'm like, okay, what are you, a project manager? Or what do you consider yourself?
I am a developer. I have some weeks where I don't get a whole lot of coding done, for sure.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
All right, Eric.
I will
what about
make
your
note
week?
of that. Oh, my week.
Your week.
Let me throw
Do you
myself
consider
over.
yourself a developer?
A very bad developer, but yes. I'm
What'd you
a
break now?
podcaster, a publisher, and a developer, John. I'm having a great
Is it
week
in that order?
with developing. I'm working on a top secret project for tech, which we can't discuss yet, but it does have me appreciating Tailwind again. I am such a terrible front end person, and I was stressing about getting my front end to come together. It's not a complex, like with the project I'm working on, it's not super complex. It's meant to be very simple. So I thought, I'm like, okay, I can handle this. And sure enough, it's like I just can't get started with doing the front end work. And I finally got over that hump over the weekend and been pretty much going full steam ahead. But freaking Tailwind is so awesome. I'm as bad as I am with front end stuff. I feel like I can get so much more accomplished using Tailwind. I'm excited, but yeah, doing well. I mean,
I think we'll be able to announce that project next week.
You think?
I think.
If you want to hear about projects that aren't actually talked about because they're top secret, this is the podcast for it.
Yeah.
It seems like every couple episodes there's some secret.
And then we spill the beans.
I'm on record as saying I don't go support like the whole teasing mentality, but there's obviously if I could share, I would share. I always overshare, but there are reasons I can't share right now, and that will become clear, I guess, next week.
Maybe the week after. We'll see.
So we got our trailer almost to Chicago. It's in Indiana now.
That's good.
So
That's
in an undisclosed
we're
location.
It's 2 hours away
Yeah.
from the venue, so worst case, we can go drag it by hand and we'll just walk it there.
Yeah.
Not worst case. I mean, just to be negative Nancy here.
The trailer could be hit by a meteor.
I don't know. That'd give a lot of press for tech.
It would. I wouldn't have a problem with it. Yeah, tech. Woo, man. I mean, do you realize how close we are to tech now? John and I are like
33
realizing
days.
we're getting down to the wire of like having to get things like t-shirts ordered, bags ordered, signs ordered. It's like, wow, we've got to like get this stuff done in like the next week if we want to make sure it's there for tech. Oh, very exciting stuff.
Exciting
There's
and nerve-wracking.
champion our Discord right there. Champion our Discord. We have to thank for getting our trailer almost to Chicago.
This guy's a beast. What are you
I-
doing? Almost 24 hours straight? There
I
and
don't
back?
even want to talk about it because I don't want to encourage him thinking that was a good thing he did. He freaked me out about that. Yes, he basically drove for 24 hours nonstop. We offered to pay for a hotel room for him, whatever he needed, and he was like, "No, I'm just gonna drive home." I'm like, are you kidding me right now? So, but he did it, man. Guy is an animal. Yeah, so that's there. That was a huge stress reliever for me, like getting that off my shoulders. I mean, it's still not at the venue, and there are a few obstacles still getting it to the venue, but it's closer. It is definitely closer.
No rest for the wicked. Did you mention Discord? If you want to hang out with us live, go to discord.phpugly.com.
Doesn't even listen to the show while it's on.
Thursday night.
That was .com, not .com. That would just take you to a completely different site you don't want to be at.
Yeah, you
Although
don't want to go there.
you might want to. You never know.
Can I bring up something real quick? I feel so totally vindicated. This article came out.
You just
is this the homework you gave us?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yes, it is.
No, this is somebody's just casual discovery that sometimes your Laravel Horizon jobs may just never run.
Oh, we're talking about that. I thought we were talking about something else.
For all of the nightmares I have had with Laravel Horizon, finally someone is just like, yeah, this is the problem. It's really stupid. There's an expiration on jobs that is like part of the config, and it's not called expiration, it's called trim. And,
that's obvious.
And none of the stuff makes any sense. It's
so what's the point of it? If it's not done by this date, trim it out of the queue. Don't run it.
Yeah, if it doesn't get executed after being in the queue for 60 minutes, dump it. What? What? What do you think I'm dispatching that is that low priority that, like, if it doesn't get out in 60 minutes, never mind. Like, and the solution is just like, well, raise it to 2 hours. You can't set it to 0. You got to raise it up to 2 hours. So, like, if something clogs up your system and it queues for 2 hours, now it's gone again. I just... It's so ridiculous.
But I don't think. But is that really what that means? Because the way I'm reading that is, it will keep jobs that it's completed around for 60 minutes. Oh, pending is 60 minutes as well.
Yeah. Why?
But failed jobs is a week. That makes sense. And what's the difference between failed and recent failed?
Who knows?
You're supposed to know. You're supposed to read
There's
this.
no documentation on this. I'm not in the Laravel world anymore. I'm just vindicated that was not my fault in the 5 instances that this occurred.
Isn't this the one that cost your previous company $1 million?
No.
I thought there was a Q thing that you couldn't figure out. That was the runaway thing.
That was a runaway queue. Yeah, that was a different wonderful Laravel Horizon issue.
That's right. Well, that's an interesting find. I wonder if they will change the defaults, because obviously the pending one should be way higher. Or if there's a -1 type of setting.
Right, it should be not at all. You should never just ditch jobs because it took too long to get to it. Not even that it ran too long. It just took too long to get to it. So never mind.
That may make sense in some bizarre use cases, but for the vast majority, 99.9%,
yeah,
it wouldn't make sense at all.
Very frustrating. So there's that, and I read a fantastic article uncovering the bottlenecks in Laravel's container. Not that this is going to be a shit on Laravel episode, but this is an interesting one as well, where a developer basically duplicated some functionality in Symfony that he had, and it was way slower in Laravel, and he traced it down to the container. And it turns out that when you have a dependency bound in the container, it's not immediately publicly available to all classes. It's scoped, the class has to say, I need this dependency, and then it resolves the dependency using reflection, and then it passes the dependency into the requesting object. So the more objects you have requesting a dependency, if it's bound to the container, then the slower and slower it gets, because it has to do the same thing over and over again. Whereas Symfony immediately makes everything public to all classes. So when you ask for something, it's just shared by default.
Huh.
So the suggestion here was, if you have a dependency that you're using bind on, change it to scoped or singleton. Scoped is basically a singleton, but it respects the request end functionality that Octane uses, so that it keeps running, but it unloads at the end of the request lifecycle, whereas a singleton will not unload at the end of a request cycle.
Really? I mean, it has to unload somehow.
Well, at the end of the request lifecycle as used by Octane, which keeps the
Octane keeping it. Gotcha. You're right.
This is Laravel's request lifecycle thing. So, so very interesting. If you have custom bound services in Laravel, check it out. You'll get some free bonus performance out of it. And it not insignificant. His tests showed a almost doubling of performance on an application.
So, I know you're not in the Laravel world anymore. Do you think that should be the default behavior instead of bind? Would you ever want bind instead of?
I don't know. I mean, there are some services that that should be idempotent or immutable, and in those cases, you might want to do that. But I don't really know. I'm not well enough up on why the decision was made to do this kind of scoping in the first place, or even just dependency injection in general.
Interesting.
But with Symfony, it is the opposite. You have to explicitly define it as being a non-shared service. So it's a new instance every time it gets referenced.
Well, today I learned.
Yeah, I mean, my guess is just that that they're just two different schools of thought. That a service should be a new instance every time you look at it, versus a service should provide the same service no matter where you call it from. So I don't know.
All right, Eric, I need to go to the YouTube stream because I'm trying to figure out, is your video just backwards on my screen? And cool hat, by the way. Is that OB for Ocean Beach?
Absolutely. Why would it be backwards? Is it backwards? Wait, I don't have it mirrored.
It is backwards. Your camera's inverted.
Not inverted. Mirrored.
Yeah, mirrored. Whatever.
Is that better?
There you go. That's better.
Yeah. See, that's wrong though, because this. I guess it's right. That's my right hand. Yeah.
I can read OB.
OB baby.
So you mentioned the homework that I gave you guys.
Oh man,
I know.
I couldn't even get through all of that. What
it was a
was
book by the end of it.
You didn't have to get through all of it. Just get the idea.
He
wanted to point out that his April Fool's joke may not be a full April Fool's joke.
Yes.
Well,
that's part one.
And we can talk about that too, because a lot of the stuff you want to talk about the moving PHP internals to GitHub first.
Yeah, we'll start there.
Okay, so this is actually a lot of these discussions in this thread have been around for a long time. I mean,
7 years ago.
There are these established complaints with the way internals. So what we're talking about here is, I get last week, Tom took the bait on a little April Fool's
Nothing
joke
happened last week. We're talking about this week.
From somebody who suggested that internals was going to move to Reddit, but it actually echoed a very real issue that has been around internals for a long time, and that is how challenging it is to communicate with internals, because it's all done through a mailing list. Not only is it a mailing list, but you have to adhere to certain certain formatting to participate. So like you have to do the replies on top, I think was one of them, and there's like all these things, and it's confusing for new people coming in. It's very confusing to try to follow an actual conversation because multiple people may reply to the same email, so it doesn't become like one cohesive thread. And there's been a lot of talk for a long time about what a better solution is for that. GitHub issues has come up when PHP moved the source code to GitHub. It seemed like GitHub was the perfect place to have these conversations, and it doesn't even have to be a GitHub issues. There's a discussion board now.
Now it wasn't back then, but now they have GitHub discussions, which is viable.
Yeah,
but
I think so.
But it was brought up in this entire thread that it may not be the best option because of vendor lock. We're getting stuck on GitHub for the source code and for discussions. Is that a real concern? I don't know. I mean, it's
here's my biggest gripe about it. Like, if we only had a developer who could build something in a language that has the ability to create threaded discussions like a bulletin board or something.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do that. Maybe we should dog food our own stuff and just make something.
Or if there was a million forum tools in that language that were already written,
Right. I mean, I think that's it. Especially if you're worried about vendor lock-in. I think that's a reasonable.
I mean, if you're worried about
solution.
vendor lock-in, God help you, you're already screwed. What do you?
You get kind of locked in with whatever forum you decide to use, or like
Mhm.
everything is a trade-off. I don't know if GitHub discussions are just another repo like the wiki is, but if that's the case, you basically have everything available to you. But it
But
probably isn't.
that's not why the thread is 1,000 pages long, though. The thread on this, which by the way, you can get a threaded view. The person who created externals.io actually jumped in on the conversation on Reddit and said, "Oh yeah, I made get externals.io to solve this specific issue, but I didn't have time to
And
do all the stuff I wanted to."
to be fair, external IO does go a long way at resolving the problem we have from the outside looking in, trying to follow these discussions. It doesn't really address the people internally trying to have the discussion because, external IO is just a read only view of this. There's no no contributing through external IO. But yes, this is a novel of conversation.
There was a post from Reddit by Happy Penguin that brought up some of the issues and why they think it's a good idea. One of them being simple reactions, being able to thumbs up or heart or react to, just to almost give like a quick pulse. Not that it would have any voting like power, but if you have a large contingent of developers that like something, maybe it weighs in your mind when you're voting. If you're like, I'm not strong yes or no, maybe that plays a role. But then somebody said, yeah, these things are happening on Reddit already.
Well, and
I missed that.
but there's also complaints about the way that the internals developers are treating everyone who comes in as a complete moron, which is 50% right, but like some of the attitudes.
Tough position to be in, right? I mean, because if you've ever followed internals, you get people like submitting, "Hey, I tried to create a Hello World app and I'm getting this error." Now, these are people that aren't PHP developers; they're C developers. Right. They are deep into this code, into this life, been doing it for a long time. They don't really want to take time to bring other people up to speed to get to where they need to be to actually be able to contribute to the discussion, which is part of the problem, right? This is why the barrier for entry for new people. I've been wanting to be part of internals for a very long time, but I just don't. It's just
what about instead of them having all these emails that they're going through? What if there were almost like gatekeepers on this forum that kind of see these things? They're like, oh, this is a good internals discussion. Almost like moderators that say, yeah, this is garbage, I got to get rid of this, or somehow flag it and move it on, almost like this is worthy of going past this to the people that really need to see it.
Yeah, I see that being a problem.
Yeah, it would slow things down.
Yeah, and people complaining that, just because you don't find this important, don't think other people don't find it important. Because the range of conversations that are happening on these internal threads about every library, every implementation, every line of code in PHP internals is just vast.
Yeah, but I think once you get past, like once the thread starts, then you're not dealing with that. It's more of that initial, somebody starts a new thread, and it's one like you said where, hey, I tried doing a PHP Hello World, and you have the moderator that can kick that to the curb.
Right. Well, and there's quite a bit of complaint about Derek Rathens, the creator and maintainer of Xdebug, and how he's a huge jerk because his reply to something was not a chance. Also, who are you? Which, if that's a deeply cutting comment to you, go ahead and try to contribute to the Linux kernel without knowing what you're doing, because holy shit, I have seen Linus Torvalds just tear people apart in public for mistakes thinking they knew what they were doing.
Again, hard call, right? It's a hard thing to make a call on. It's not right, like to talk down to people or to imply that their opinion is important because they're not well known is not a good look for anybody. But I keep going back to, these guys
well
have
known
to
within
a
what?
lot of noise.
They're not well known within this very tight circle of like 20 people who are the maintainers of a language that essentially they don't use. Like they're C developers.
But I totally I'm playing devil's advocate here. I totally agree with you, and I kind of side with the internal developers who are like that because they're volunteers. They don't have a lot of time to put up with BS. But still, it doesn't mean that I can't come in out from the cold where nobody really knows me and contribute good ideas. So if I'm willing to have the courage to submit something, I don't know the exact conversation you're referring to, Tom, but if I had the ability to submit something, if it's a bad idea, just say, no, this won't work. Sorry, move on. You don't need to say, who are you? Or throw something in my face. That's there's no need for that. I totally see why they do it. And I would probably be 10 times worse at it because I can get very, I'm told I can be a mean person.
I'm sure it all depends on how you come into the conversation too. Like,
right?
You come in, get guns ablazing, saying, "I can't believe you do it this way. This is a much better way to do it." Then you're gonna get treated like crap. But you're like,
right? Yeah, I'm talking out my ass. I don't know how the exchange happened, and I don't know. And maybe Derek wasn't trying to be snippy about it. He just may just been saying, "No, that's not going to work." Just curious, who are you? Why did you think this was a good idea? I mean, that's not being mean. That's just trying to get more information about
And there's also the whole thing that two things actually. One, it's email. There's no emotion in email, so people often read what they want to read into it. And two, it's not a US based list. It's an international list, and people talk differently in other places. They may be more direct, and in where they're at, that's just the way things are, and it's okay. We're here, we look at direct and we're like, oh crap, they're being mean.
Good points.
Yeah. Also, I mean, like I said, Derek is a contributor to internals. Xdebug has a real job and is maintaining Xdebug at a loss for himself. Like,
yeah. But if you want to talk to him, I know where you can talk to him at.
Yeah, but this
May 16th through the 18th, we know exactly where he'll be.
This person coming in saying, hey, we should switch from a mailing list to something like Slack or GitHub is just proposing work get done by the internals team. Not that he's going to take the job and do it or do all the work. It's just like, hey, why don't you do this? Like, fuck off. Why don't you do it?
I honestly don't think the general PHP developer out there can really have an appreciation for how little credit the internals team
any open source.
Yeah, that's true.
Except for Laravel, where he's got a goddamn Maserati.
It's a Lamborghini, but yeah, okay.
My bad. I was only off by about $50,000.
Listen, we're about halfway into the show, about 30 minutes in. We got a couple of sponsors to get to, not to mention our supporters on Patreon. So let's pay some bills. And now, a word from our sponsors. Classic Tom. Did look infected, however. You probably should have somebody look at it. Oh, hi! If you know me, you know I'm somebody who literally wears a lot of hats. I'm a podcaster, a publisher, and a coder. What I'm not is somebody who has a lot of time worrying if their site is giving their users problems. That's why I use Honeybadger. Now let's be honest, Honeybadger is a sponsor of the podcast, but that's not why I feel good talking about them. I've been using Honeybadger for years and couldn't be happier. Honeybadger has a suite of monitoring tools specialized for developers. It's the only system that combines monitoring, uptime, and cron heartbeat monitoring into a clean, fast interface. Honeybadger offers a generous, free tier, and with just 2 lines of code in about 5 minutes, you can start monitoring your application. Personally or professionally, it works for everybody. Honeybadger can help you identify and fix problems sometimes before the user even knows there's an issue with your site. And at no cost to sign up, it's literally free for peace of mind. So go over to honeybadger.io and sign up for a free account today. What's going to hurt? If somebody asks you, tell them the Ugly Squad sent you. Now I got to get back to podcasting. I got these co-hosts I need to talk to. And they are co-hosts. I don't care what anybody says. I'm the host because I'm cooler than all of them. Thank you, Honeybadger. Guys, don't be rude. Thank Honeybadger. Ugh.
Thank you, Honeybadger.
Thanks, Honeybadger. I want to pretend that your desk normally looks like that. You just have your comfort elephants all around you.
Yes. Yes, that's what it normally looks like.
He brings it on the plane and declares it an emotional support elephant.
Yeah, I kind of did that on a whim. Like I said, I'm on some new medication that has me a little happier than normal. And I listened to it again.
Can we up the dosage?
I listened to it this morning, and of course, then I hear all the breathing and all the missed things that I did, and I'm like, oh, this is horrible. I wasn't gonna play it, but I played it.
It's adorable, and your children love it.
I thought it was good.
That's what's important.
Oh, all right.
Being cool in front of your kids.
Yes.
That's where it's at.
So, I did assign 2 shitty homework assignments this week.
You did. Both of them were pretty. I mean, we have a lot going on, Tom. You really do a lot of reading this week.
This one I hadn't have issues with.
You have issues with or don't have? Because I have a lot of issues with this.
No, I have issues with it.
It is the weirdest conversation to go on in the PHP internals that I've seen in a long time.
So we're talking about the future stability of PHP, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let's talk about this one.
So the whole thread started with a post in the mailing list that said, a few days ago, I migrated to a project from 7.1 to 8.2, and the amount of deprecations and fatal errors spooked me a bit.
Well, there you go. That's the first problem right there.
Yeah.
You're weak. If that bothers you.
That got me wondering about the long-term stability of PHP. And then it goes into there's API breaks, and there's supported tools that no longer get supported, and I'm scared that PHP is moving past me, and I'm going to have to keep maintaining my code. And I'm like,
you want to know how to stay on top of your code?
Yeah, this
and
is
your PHP versions. Come to PHP Tech.
This conversation is going to die quick. It's not going to go anywhere. You can't really just spin up a shit on PHP's stability. I understand that you had 30 years where it was the same version or whatever, and now things are moving and there's progress, but
so I thought Camille had the best response of the whole.
Oh, I thought this was one of the worst takes.
Oh, really? Camille's?
Yeah. Obviously there are problems like arrays and isset and references and globals and super globals and extract and compact. Starts listing off a bunch of stuff that isn't a problem.
But then he talks about if you adhere to good coding practices, you'll be all right. Basically, is what
sure.
he says.
And I mean, and that's the breakdown of the whole thing is you've got ex WordPress developers who are now doing some PHP stuff, and they're like, I don't get it, but like saying that arrays are a sign of unclean code in PHP is like, dude, shut up.
You got a good point. I didn't put that together. Yeah, he does kind of go and he does talk about, oh yeah, there's always going to be breaking changes, blah blah blah. And in good coding practice, you'll be fine. Now, yeah, are there problems? Sure. Arrays, yeah, arrays are a problem. Yeah. Is set
which is
empty?
like,
Sure. That's an issue. What's
like,
the problem with is set? What I use that all the time. Maybe I use that way more than I should use it because he even says you should not use this.
It's not necessary anymore with the null coalescing operator. I don't know if there's an issue with it as much as it was always if this is set and this. Like,
see, I use my is set in if statements almost exclusively. I don't know how the null coalescent operator would handle that.
Because now you don't need to do that. You could,
depending null coalescing does the is set for you.
How would you do it? How would you do it then?
Just if this element in an array question mark false, so it returns false, or something that would not match the rest of your conditional.
You think that reads well though?
Yeah. When you actually see it, it's not bad.
You're gonna have to show me that one because I'd be happy to steer away from his set. One of the best things I ever did was to stop using the if else and just use if statement.
Right.
Love how that's changed my code.
And they're saying the same thing with the arrays up there. It's kind of like that. Don't use if else. Larry Garfield had that whole article about don't use arrays. Arrays are bad. It's not that they're bad. There are probably better ways of storing your data. For the null coalescing, if you're doing like if this array element exists and this array element, so you're looking to see if there's a value in there, you can simply just say if this array element question mark false. So if it's not there, the null coalescing returns false and you don't get into it. And if you do get into it, something was set and you're good to go.
Okay, I see what you're saying now. So if the variable is not there, whether it's however deep it is, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Eric's Spanish speaking kid, we stopped using else in an if else when possible. It's not always 100% possible not to use it, but for the most part, we try not to have an else. You may have an if else if, but the else
even
you
then,
can
I
usually
don't really
code
do
around
that.
without it.
Right.
This conversation goes into like it spirals out of control into how great Node is. And I'm like,
yeah, there was a lot of that. Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
about
and I'm
where
like,
I stopped
okay.
reading it.
okay, use Node, that's fine. And then it spirals into, well, you should keep maintaining 4 and 5 and use a tag like question mark PHP 5 so that
You should
people can
maintain Windows
still-
3.1 forever.
Right.
Damn it.
Like,
Hey, so somebody's using it, so you should maintain it. Yeah.
well, and someone came up and they're like, well, yeah, like, what you're just dropping the old support for the old thing from 15 years ago? And they're like, yeah. And then someone else came in, of course, and said, no, actually, third parties support the old version still. Red Hat, like REHL, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, maintains PHP 5. They're still doing the security stuff for it.
Really?
Yeah.
I would.
Canonical
What's the purpose of
maintains
that?
7 until 2026. FreeXIAN supports 5.6 with multiple customers.
Red Hat has a lot of people paying for long-term support, I believe. So
Right.
Yeah, it's enterprise, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like, I'm sorry you had a hard time upgrading your monolith from 7.2 to 8. But also, like, why did you have a hard time doing that?
Well, it wasn't 7, it was 7-1.
7-1.
Yeah, so I mean,
What
if you're
happened?
gonna skip all the minor branches or the minor releases, you're gonna have more deprecations building up over time, because that's what should be happening in those. Is like, as you go up, you go from 7.1 to 7.2. You should then be monitoring your deprecation log and like, oh, let me replace this now before it becomes an issue later. And then if you keep up with it over the releases, once you get to 8.2, you don't have all that cruft.
And I like, what would you achieve having a special tag for PHP 7? Like, why would you upgrade to 8 if you're not going to use it? What do you
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, that was. I think I don't remember exactly how the message was posted, but I read one of them as basically, "Hey, you're making me like really learn how to program. That's not what PHP is. It's supposed to be approachable for like anybody to be able to just use." I'm like, no, it shouldn't.
Right. And it's people are like, I should be able to go straight from scratch to PHP.
Mm-hmm.
I want to organize puzzle pieces together and then have a web server running. Like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Thanks for holding everyone back for a decade when this came up with PHP 5.3. Because that's the person who did. The person who held PHP back for a decade was like, well, what about backwards compatibility? And they just said, what about? What
that
about?
person
for
has
10
a name.
years.
That person has a name. It's called WordPress.
For like, seriously, it's, oh, I don't know, man. I don't want to like support new stuff and old stuff. Like, okay, don't support the old stuff.
I think the 5 to 7 was our wake up call to not have that happen again.
Right.
And that's why we are moving. It seems like a breakneck speed, but it is very controlled and on the release schedule. And it's just a matter of stay with the times. And
then it turns into, the thread turns into tech support. It's like, well, I want dynamic properties. All right, put in the attribute allow dynamic properties. Well, isn't that going to get deprecated in 9? No, the RFC itself says that this has no plans for being deprecated or removed. Oh, well, thanks for the support. I mean, like, and this is a great example of why the mailing list should not be on GitHub. Because now, once you start getting all these GitHub users who think that this is their support base, this is where they need to talk to the internals devs and require them to work harder for free. You know, that's what both of these conversations broke down to, which was, why aren't you guys doing more for me for free?
Right.
And it's like, hey, if this is a big deal to you, hire a C programmer, have them patch your 5.6 version.
Pay one of the start paying the internals team.
Yeah, contribute to the PHP Foundation.
Yeah.
As part of that contribution, you get a voice on the board. You know, like. But again, this is another book of please do free work for me on the internals, and it's just been so dramatic all week. I have an RSS feed for the mailing list, and at a certain point, it was like 5 posts every few minutes. It was just ridiculous.
Really?
Yeah, it was just going so fast, and you can't read the whole thing. It's a total giant clusterfuck.
And people overreact to deprecation notices. Like, yeah, it might be a pain in the ass when it's filling up your log, but
wait, I only have 4 years to fix this?
And the whole point is you can fix them slowly and not be in a bad spot.
Yeah, and if you don't know, deprecations only apply between major versions. So a deprecation announced in 8 is not deprecated until 9 comes out, which I think is 2 years away still.
Not removed. not this. It's a deprecation in 8 and is removed
And it's
in
removed
9.
from 9. Yeah.
Right.
So like you get 8.1, 8.2, 8.3, 8.4. You don't have to worry. And then when 9 gets announced, you can spend the year getting ready for it by fixing the tiniest little bug you have.
Or fix it as you see the deprecation come up. Use
Yeah.
Honeybadger to let you know when you have a deprecation.
That's a very real thing you can do with Honeybadger.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just great. That's a great feature. I wish I had it.
We should we have more sponsors to talk about. So let's move on and let's talk about PhpStorm. PhpStorm is a weird one because we don't really have anything official to talk about.
We do
Given us
not.
anything. But PhpStorm is a sponsor.
But again, during development, using PhpStorm, it will point out deprecations to you and how to make changes to your code to bring it up to the latest version of PHP.
Yeah,
don't have to
pull that in.
Yeah. PhpStorm has so many awesome tools built into it to help speed up your development and keep your code running well. It interacts with all the common tools that we should be using. Static analysis, so it integrates with PHPStan, PHPCS for your coding style. You don't have to configure your coding style separately in PhpStorm. It will read your PHPCS config file and help you keep your code formatted properly as you're coding, instead of writing all your code, running your tool and saying, oh crap, I need spaces here, or I've got problems here. Just keep it all up to date for you. I gotta say, huge fan of PhpStorm.
Yep. And they are silver tier sponsors of PHP Tech, so we do appreciate them.
And we talk about PhpStorm a lot because we're a PHP podcast, but they have such a catalog of tools for other languages. I think last week we talked about the toolbox and how easy it is to keep your apps up to date. And I've actually started using DataGrip a couple years ago when we switched to Linux, because the app I used on the Mac wasn't available. And DataGrip has come a long way and does a lot of great stuff and works, across Windows, Mac, and Linux. So start to use that tool chain.
Oh, that's another great point. The JetBrains, the whole suite of JetBrains IDEs, tools. Well, the IDEs, I know for sure. I don't know about all their tools. Are cross-platform, Mac, Windows, and Linux. And not only are they cross-platform, but you don't sacrifice features. John and I have been on Linux for about a year or two now. I forget how long we've been using Linux.
No, longer than that. It was early pandemic, I think.
Yeah, and you don't, sometimes you lose features because you're on Linux, or this feature is available on Windows but not Mac. I don't see that with JetBrains products. It's nice. All good things.
For sure. So thank you, JetBrains. We appreciate it.
We need something more. Maybe I'll make a commercial for JetBrains for next week.
I want to see it.
Oh,
definitely want to see it. I know we're done with their commercial, but I still want to talk about that whole being able to code remotely has really been exciting me lately.
Have you been using it? The gateway?
I've used coding via SSH from my laptop. I haven't used Gateway yet. I want to. I started watching videos on it just yesterday.
So you're saying with SSH where you're physically syncing files? Is that what you're talking about?
No. With SSH, it connects to your remote repo or your remote computer, and then everything is hosted there. So Creasy talks about it being expensive. There's a couple of different options you have with JetBrains. We've said for years, well before they were a sponsor of tech or an advertiser on the show, if you are a professional PHP developer, you should be paying for it. You should pay for a license, and it is a professional tool for your toolkit. If you're not, they do have some resources as far as if you're on the bleeding edge. What do they call that? There's a way to
early access. Yeah,
if you're part of the early access plan, you can get a free copy of it. So there are options.
Yeah, I think we've always said that it is definitely geared more towards professional developers, not only because there's an expense behind it, and understand there's a reason there's expense behind it, because there are people developing this tool. This is not a hope the open source community comes up with something. Although there are a lot of open source plugins for it, but yeah, it's definitely a tool that if you're making money coding, it's worth the investment, and it's also a lot to kind of get your head around. Like, if you're not used to working with an IDE like PhpStorm, it can be overwhelming to try to walk in to, fire up a PhpStorm and understand how you do things. But once you get it,
Yeah, so give it a shot. And the other thing to keep in mind is the first year may be more expensive. Additionally, subsequent years are at a reduced price.
Yeah.
I did want to point out there's a feature I used to use. I need to find that again. Oh, where was that? Sorry, bear with me for a minute.
Yeah, and I want to circle back around on something you talked about. This is turning into a long segment on PhpStorm, but I'm comfortable with it.
We're talking about some of the cool stuff that it does. My productivity. So on Linux, under the window, there's my productivity, and it will show a lot of the shortcuts that you've used and how often you use them. And then you can also sort by ones you've never used. So you can find productivity hints like, oh, maybe I should try this. Basic code completion, I've used 29,000 times. There's just lots of great stuff in
there. We talked about last week that I ended up having to turn off GitHub Copilot because it was giving me bad examples where what I really wanted was the JetBrains autocomplete to kind of help push me through what I was trying to do.
Champ, good question. We will ask.
Eric, did you figure out your gutter issue from last week?
Oh, I did. Who told me that? It was somebody in our Discord. Again, discord.phpugly.com, filled with great, useful information. I want to say it was Dmitri. I'm pretty sure it was Dmitri, but if it wasn't Dmitri, I apologize. So I always have like all my like menus and everything kind of hidden. I like a clean interface coming, where it looks more like a terminal. And Dmitri asked me, or whoever gave me this advice said, "Hey, by chance, are you in Zen mode?" I'm like, "Oh, I've seen Zen mode. I don't think I'm in Zen mode." And I looked, and sure enough, I was in Zen mode. Now it didn't bring the gutter as much over to the numbers as like I would really like to see it like basically bump up against the numbers, because I don't need, it's still like an inch worth of wasted space for me, but it brought it over. And the big fix was when I maximize my screen, when I'm in Zen mode, which I don't know why this is, but that gutter takes up like a quarter of my screen. And I'm not exaggerating. Gutter gets huge. Now that I'm out of Zen mode, it doesn't do that. It kind of stays to the side, which makes it a lot more tolerable. I wanted to circle back what you said about the SSH thing, John, because now you've got me like wondering. It's like, well, what is the benefit of using Gateway? Is that because like if you don't want to install the client on your local machine, then you could do it through Gateway? Because it sounds like the SSH solution is better.
I just started looking into it, so I need more time with it. The video I watched said if you go through SSH, it almost connects automatically, sees if you have PhpStorm installed, and will tell you, okay, you can connect to this one. So it's, I don't know if it's like bypassing Gateway or if Gateway is something different. I'll do more research and find out.
Yeah. Let me know because as I shared with you, I was doing a lot of remote development there for a while, and I just kept using Gateway because I didn't want to pull it down on my local laptop. I have my big, strong desktop here. I just wanted to code from there, and if I wanted to, I would have just SSH into my machine, fired up Vim, and done everything in the terminal. I still do that when I'm going to have my iPad, but since I was using PhpStorm, and when I did that, I don't know if you remember this conversation. When I did that, I noticed there were a couple plugins that wouldn't transfer over. So there were a couple plugins, and one of the plugins was a Vim plugin that hurt a little bit, that it wasn't there for me. I don't remember which one it was off the top of my head. So that's what I was saying.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, it used my local PhpStorm install. It didn't download that client that you're talking about.
Right, that little Java client. Or
right,
whatever.
So it still used my PhpStorm, but accessed everything via SSH. Again, I don't know fully what I'm talking about because I don't work remotely as much as I used to. Since they've released all these tools.
Fair enough.
I'm gonna be doing it for a full week here soon. Just saying.
Well, you'll be doing it for a full week, but you won't have a laptop.
True.
I'm excited to hear Sarah Goldman speak. I've only ever followed her Twitter.
Deep cut.
Sarah's on Mastodon, and contributes quite frequently on Mastodon.
I can't keep up with Mastodon. Is there a Mastodon client for my Rambox? For Rambox.
Yeah, that's actually why I use Rambox, because Mastodon doesn't allow you to switch between accounts. Actually, I don't use Rambox. I have the open source thing. But Mastodon doesn't allow you to switch between accounts like Twitter does. So I just create a Mastodon instance for all the handles that I manage. So
what is that? Yeah. What is that app you're using? I think you said it last week and I forgot.
What's it called? Let me see. Ferdium.
Ferdium?
Ferdium? Yeah. So Ferdium is what I use. It's in the Pop store, John, if you're interested. And that's what I do. I have all my Mastodon handles that I manage. I threw Twitter in there too. I even have Discord in there so that if I want to run it, I can just run it and not have a bunch of applications running.
Yeah, might check it out. Nothing I manage.
I'm still on VS Code. I'm in the process of moving over to PhpStorm again. Especially after this week where I wanted to have a Scratch file and realized that that's only a PhpStorm thing. The VS Code doesn't have Scratch files.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you have to get an extension for it. I'm up to 100 extensions just to emulate the behavior of PhpStorm. Maybe I should really just get back to PhpStorm.
Yeah, so PhpStorm definitely has a lot out of the box.
Yeah, I don't do enough with Scratch files. I've seen the power of them, but the fact that it's got a full built-in API emulator, or where you can just easily do gets and posts.
Right, API client. It basically has a built-in Postman, right? It was what is the app we use as Postman, but yeah, it does. There's so many things in there that you might even not notice in there.
Well, and you can run it on any Scratch file you have. You could just run it on the comparison tool. What's it called? 3v4l.org. So you can instantly test out stuff.
Eval.
Right.
Eval.org.
Oh, cute.
Yeah. it basically runs your code on all the versions of Linux. Not Linux.
Yeah,
PHP.
From 4.3 all the way up to 8.2.
Yeah, I think you brought that up last week, didn't you, Tom?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went and checked that out. That was pretty. It's pretty slick. Yeah. All right. So we are getting late. So let's take a moment and thank our supporters on Patreon, which we have a new one
wrong one.
apparently. No, that's the
Wrong
right
one.
one.
Nope, I meant to do that. We didn't really talk much about tech.
Hey, Donald
We'll talk
G,
about that next.
thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Donald
thank
G.
you.
New Patreon supporter. Well, let's talk about tech. Let's talk about tech, baby. Let's talk about you.
Yeah.
What?
We somebody used our PHPUgly code today. So, I mean, we
I
had
missed that one.
Yeah,
You miss all of them. Don't just say I missed that one.
Well, he doesn't miss when tickets are sold because every time we get an email, we like message each other. We sold another ticket. Then we
like little
get
girls.
we get up and dance. It's
Pretty
weird.
much.
Eric buys a new hat.
Yes.
Oh,
So
right.
tickets are still being sold. There's still a few rooms left, I think, at the venue.
I hope
think.
so. I kind of hope so. I'm gonna feel so bad the first person who tells me, "Hey, I got a ticket, but I got to stay in another hotel," and I'm gonna be like, "We'll kick Tom out."
Tom will share his room with you.
Tom will share his room. He's got floor space.
No, I've been shamed into being selfish, so that will no longer be happening.
Oh, you took that offer off the table?
You are not shamed into anything.
You
What
are
talking about?
so mean.
I have no shame.
Tom just realized somebody might take him up on the offer and was like, maybe not.
You just have to deal with me playing Breath of the Wild all night.
They'll join you. Whoever, if you're a gamer and you want to hang out with Tom playing games, come to PHP Tech.
John had an awesome idea for the swag bag, and I'm very excited about it. I hope we make. I don't want to share it because if we don't make it happen, I'm going to feel a little shitty for saying it. But it's going to be a cool little swag bag thing.
Now I'm wondering what idea I had.
It's puzzling. I don't know what it could possibly be. That was a conversation John and I had. I think it was today. John's like, I'm thinking about the stuff we should get for the swag bag. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? They're getting a goddamn elephant, a t-shirt, and this other thing. They don't need anything else.
We're gonna give
Stop
them more.
spending money. Normally John's telling me that. I'm having to tell John, stop spending money.
More and more secrets.
It's not secret.
I feel shitty.
No, it's not. It's not a secret at all. We're working on a big thing for game night, and one of our prizes, I think, is a good prize.
I hope. Good prize.
We can't tell you what it is, but it should be cool.
Of course not.
It's a night in Tom's room playing video games.
Okay, probably would have liked to have been told about this.
Oh, you wanted a heads up on that one. Sorry.
That's what tonight is. We're giving you the heads up right now.
Oh, okay. There is one more wonderful piece of drama.
Okay, your kids are cool.
One more piece of drama.
That was actually really good. Let me highlight that one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Look at that. Nice one.
There was the.
Aren't they too young to know Salt and Pepper?
Everybody knows Salt and Pepper.
Yeah, everybody knows Salt and Pepper. What are you talking about?
We're old though.
Hair coating, and you will see. That was actually really good. I didn't even get past the third line.
There has been an RFC to create a PHP technical committee. And this has got some feathers ruffled as well this week. But the RFC basically
committee.
It's basically a committee that would decide when there is a disagreement between internals developers what direction should be taken. So not what's going to be implemented, but how it's going to be implemented. If there's an argument about, well, we're adding this, generics or something, how would we decide the right way to do it. Or, if there's two developers working on the same thing and one of them wants to do it this way and one wants to do it the other way, who's going to resolve that argument?
That sounds like more bureaucracy and a bunch of nightmare.
That's sort of what the conversation came down to, was like, hey, this seems like it's going to slow things down. This seems like there's going to be an elitist crowd in this committee, and who gets to make these decisions, who gets voted into the committee, stuff like that. So very interesting proposal, but it is just an RFC. It's not getting pushed through as practice yet, so we'll have to keep our eyes open on that one, see what happens.
I always forget where the dark mode is on Twitter. It happened to me again, John. I rebooted my machine, and when it came back up, I was logged out of everything precious to me.
Mm-hmm. That's what happens. That's why you don't log out. Everyone knows that. Until you try to fire up 2 apps at once, and all of a sudden you have no memory.
That's right. That's about
it happens. I don't know why.
Oh boy! All right, how are we doing on time?
We're overtime. We're good.
I've got one last thing.
I didn't get into the whole Rust drama, but there's Rust drama. There's we think we have drama. Rust has drama.
Well, then I'll hold off on my one last thing till next week. It can wait.
I don't follow it enough. I'll share the links with everybody. The big thing is the Primogen. Watch the Primogen's video on this topic. Let me just move all this stuff over so Discord gets it. But basically, Rust, the people behind Rust are taking the steps to trademark everything, and they've gotten for an open source project, they really kind of, I feel like, overstepping a lot, which is the biggest thing and the one that drew my attention. And I want to be clear one more time, I didn't do a deep dive into this because I don't care enough about Rust I just happened to watch the Primogen. He does a lot of Vim talks. He was talking about this Rust thing. I watched it for a little while, then I stopped watching it. But basically, Rust said, if I understood everything correctly, we will release the official logo. You're not allowed to change the logo. You're not allowed to change colors of it. You're not allowed to, you can't do anything. We will create logos like LGBT logo and BLM logos. They said we'll create those variations, but you don't have authorization to do it yourself. Not only that, but you can't use the Rust name. If you're creating a course and you want to call it Rust for beginners, apparently that's going to be an issue. There's just a lot of weirdness. I watched the Primogen, and I don't think any of this was finalized. So maybe because of some of the blowback they're getting, they'll change some of this if they haven't already changed it. But it was just really weird for an open source project. It's wait, what? That's okay. That's weird.
Yeah, isn't the PHP Creative Commons?
PHP?
I don't know.
Or Rust?
No, I think the PHP logo is Creative Commons.
Oh yeah,
you're just comparing.
The mascot. You're talking about the mascot or the logo?
I think the logo as well.
Yeah, I don't know if the mascot is. It might be. That was actually one of the weird things about the Rust situation. The Rust mascot is a crab. I forget what it's called, Freddy or something. And they weren't claiming any domain over the mascot because the Primogen kind of speculated. I think the person who created this mascot released it as open, open to the community or whatever. So they couldn't pull that back in. It's interesting. It's always good to see, to be reminded that these other communities have issues as well.
It's not just ours.
Not just ours. Back to the thread we were talking about earlier with PHP, and somebody kept bringing up NPM, and then somebody even mentioned it. It's like, oh yeah, have you looked at or talking about Node? Like, yeah, but NPM is a complete mess. Like their package management system is a nightmare. So yeah, everybody's got issues, not just us. Okay, do we have time, John or Tom? What was your one last thing?
No, I will save it. I will save it for next week. Well, okay, I'll cover it real quick. April 26th is VS Code Day, which is a sort of a virtual conference that VS Code is putting on. So they're going to be doing presentations on using VS Code anywhere, tips and tricks for TypeScript, accessibility in VS Code. The one I really want to see is creating a data set from scratch with GitHub Copilot, which I think is a super cool idea for doing your unit testing. Okay. So mark that VS Code Day.
I have to admit, I have not touched VS Code in a very, very long time. I think, as a matter of fact, I think the last time I touched it was when I was helping my Spanish-speaking kid in doing some pair programming with them. But yeah, and VS Code isn't a sponsor of tech, so they can burn and die in hell.
Who cares?
All right. I think that's gonna do it. Episode 331 is done. I'm Eric.
I'm John.
I'm Tom.
Keep it
ugly.
Talk slower because I forgot to load up the outro.
I'm supposed to do that, aren't I?
Yeah, somebody was supposed to.
1, 2, 1, 2. Coming off the top, y'all know how we do. Listen, I'ma drop a freestyle you can cherish. I'ma send a shout out to the host named Eric. Yo, he's never on some average shit. You know Eric, he stays loud and passionate. I'm about to break it down for y'all with the clever song. Yo, shout the host named Thomas, cause he's never wrong. Yo, shout to John, you know that he's smart and quiet, unlike my freestyles which cause a riot. I'm about to do it like this cause the people love me. Shouts out to PHP the ugly. It's called ugly cause it's not professional, but I'm about to come through and bless it with style. So let's do it when I'm spitting, I perfume the room. Yo, the segment of the show is called Doom and Gloom. That came from Thomas. Yeah, can nobody go beyond this? I get the mic and then I'm about to keep it like a promise. Yeah, and y'all know we fill them up with anguish. We talking about the PHP, the programming language. About to break it down, no exaggeration. What do y'all do for a living? Web applications. Okay, I can dig it. My words spray tight. They getting together on the Thursday nights. Yeah, when it comes to rhyming, you can call me the new dude. I spew true lyrics while y'all broadcast on YouTube. So let's get it. You know my lyrics are major. All up in the comments, they got plenty of haters, but they doing what they doing. Keep it ugly. We ending every show with the saying it's lovely. Let's go. Hey, shout out to y'all. Peace to the whole squad, man. Hope your channel is doing real well on YouTube. Hope you guys are having fun. And it was an honor and blessing to do this little custom freestyle for y'all. Hope you enjoy. Stay up. Yeah. Come on. Hey.
It seemed like you timed that just right with the video in the background.
Yeah. Somebody had mentioned, it might have been Tom actually, said that I shouldn't have the YouTube version of him, just make it look like he's singing it on stage.
Oh, there you go.
My dog's driving me nuts. 1 second.
No problem.
All of a sudden, like, I'm sitting here, I hear this loud bang. I'm like, what in the heck just happened? Yeah, my kids had a balloon in the front room just on the other side of my door here that just spontaneously blew up for some reason. Just like, I guess, bouncing around on the ground or something.
Mm-hmm.
I meant to bring something else up on the show. Not that it matters, but business-wise, I thought you would be happy about.
Something I don't know?
You don't know.
All right.
So we had business insurance.
Mm-hmm.
I called to switch from Diego Dev to PHP Architect 2 weeks ago, and they said, oh, well, you need to close the old one and open a new one. Okay,
They're
so
gonna
I
give us
started.
physicals again, aren't they?
This is business insurance, not the other one, not life
Oh,
insurance.
oh.
So they start asking me the questions, and they asked if we manufacture blah 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 anything, and I'm thinking, okay, yes, we make the elephant. So I said yes, and that opened this whole can of worms of other questions. And I realized it's such an insignificant part of our income. I'm like, I wish I would have just said no.
Mhm.
But I've already said it. Like, I'm having this conversation with the woman, and she's like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. We get to the end of the conversation. She's like, all right, well, this has to go to the underwriters now. And I'm like, crap. She's like, so you should hear something tomorrow. If not, call back. Of course, I lose track of that. My stepmom gets into town, so I spend time with that. So I finally call back today to check on the status of our new application, and they verified that information with me again. I'm like, listen, it's a stuffed elephant that we make. It's such an insignificant part of our income, and we're really giving it away as a
Promotional thing.
a promotional thing
Yeah.
at PHP Tech. And she puts me on hold again, then finally comes back. She's like, oh, talk to the underwriter. We want to even include that. No big deal. We can finish this up. So you want to cancel the one for Diego Dev and open this one for PHP Architect? I'm like, sure. She goes over the coverages again. I'm like, as long as it matches what we had on the old one, we're good to go. So she starts comparing and says yes. And then she's like, do you want to pay that, a year up front, or you want to do monthly payments? And I'm like, well, what's the total? They doubled the total for the same coverage.
What?
I'm like, are you sure it's the same coverage? And she said,
What?
yeah.
What was the justification there?
That we were grandfathered into old rates because we've been with them for 10 years or however long it's been. And so rates have gone up and our income has increased. So when we first opened it, it was half the income. So we never reported, as we increased income for Diego Dev, we never reported that to them. Not that they ever asked, because
Right.
what should that matter? How much we make? They're not covering that. They're covering potential lawsuits, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, wait, you're more than doubling my cost for the same coverage. I'm like, I don't want to do that. Well, I'm sorry, that's blah blah blah. And she
I gotta
tried
go.
saying it. All right, see you.
All right, bye, guys.
So I finally said, all right, I'm canceling both. Just cancel the Diego Dev, and we won't do the PHP Architect one. Okay, you sure? I'm like, yeah, I'm not paying double for the same coverage. That just doesn't make sense to me. And we're not talking pennies. We're talking about significant amount of money. And just before we hang up, I'm like, and I'm sure this is where you tell me that I'm not, like, you're the only game in town. I can't go anywhere else. She goes, yeah, for what we offer, it's pretty much us. I'm like, crap. Damn. So I do some research. I find another website. I get to the end and I'm like, wait, what? Wait. I go back and I'm triple checking the coverage. I'm like, same coverage, same. Wait. What? We're saving a decent amount of money. I actually added another coverage, and we can talk about this another time.
Mm-hmm.
We're still paying. We're paying 2/3 of what we used to pay for more coverage.
Interesting. So listen, I know. I'll share this in Discord. But let me try it. Let me see if I can stream in here. Hold on one second, because it is a YouTube video and I can stream with audio. So we're big Harry Mack fans here, as we all know, and John and I have followed his career. He's hit the big time. Like he's no longer like small change. He's like a main thing now.
Try to get him to do a podcast for you, or a freestyle for your podcast.
Exactly, right. But So we've watched him freestyle a ton. I have never. He went to the TNT studios, and they did one on air where he was on television, which was pretty good. But he released one. I don't know when he released this one, 2 days ago, where clearly he's like backstage with the staff.
Is
I
that
have
the
never
14
seen-
words one?
Yes.
I happened to see that one
Oh
completely
my god,
separate.
dude.
Oh yeah, that's the one I saw. Yeah.
My name is Harry
Yeah.
Mack, and I'm
crazy.
known for freestyling off
So
the top
here,
of the
let me-
dome.
let me
So
get
we're
to
gonna
the
see if we can do
words.
some improvised rhymes right now.
But the
I
funny
need your
part
help.
is, he said,
Sometimes, yo, that's just what it takes. I learned through osmosis by studying greats. Yeah, I learned from the ones who really ripped the track. I learned from J. Cole, Dreamville, we gon' get to that. But yo, I had to study all the best out there. Lyrics that be flying all up out my mouth rare. They say, yeah, Mac, you got the skills, so we cherish you. It's not just the bars, dog, we respect your character. Yeah, H. Mac, I be getting groovy.
So not only does he hit all the words, I think he only forgets one of them. And you can see the words that they're sharing. They're not all simple words. Like I said, I think he missed. Like he needed to be reminded of one of them. I don't remember which one it is, but he hits all of them. It is
and then adds some
absolutely
along the way
insane.
as he's seeing people's
Oh.
clothing and adds in the words off the shoes and the shirts and hats and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, it's just so
Feeling like
sick,
main
man.
character, the star of the movie. Yeah,
This guy,
H-Mac, man, you know
whatever
that I
he
be rapping
gets
ill. I'm the star of the
from
film, and it's just like an
fame and
action
money, he
film. Running
deserves
fast
everything.
over tracks, y'all know they wanna hate it. Measure up the point. We getting quantitative, yeah, qualitative. Going deeper though. It's H-Mac, man. I got the top secret flow. And I be the best runner. Do it from the soul. It ain't all about the numbers.
So I'll throw that in Discord so y'all can. It goes. I mean, you see how long it is. It's a pretty long one. So not only does he hit all the words, he even acknowledges words he doesn't. He's not sure what the meaning of them are.
Ostentatious, he said he didn't. He's like, remind me what that is, and
Yeah. So he will like learn the word on the spot and tie it together. It's so sick, man. The guy he's just amazing. He's just an amazing person. Let me throw this in Discord.
have you
for
watched
y'all.
any of his videos where he tries to teach you how to do it?
No. Really?
Yeah.
No.
Uh-huh.
I have not.
He's like, I watched one recently where he's like, you just got to get the 4/4 beat, and you just have to get that and then he's trying to teach you that whole setup punchline routine.
Yeah. Like I have seen him talk about, his cheats. Like he talks about how, like, when people are listening to the flow, they don't realize maybe he didn't rhyme the word that he was supposed to rhyme, but he like led up to it where like all blended together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, oh my god.
See you, Frank. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Take it easy, Frank. Yeah, fantastic. All right. Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about? Or?
Everyone's talking about how awesome pointers are for C, and they are awesome until you serialize a PHP object and then change up how you serialize it, and then you have pointers in there, and it screws everything up. Just saying.
Yeah. Pointers
Fun
I
stuff.
hear are fun.
No,
So my Spanish speaking kid, yeah, learn C. I can't help you with C. I don't know C, but if you learn C, you can become one of those famous PHP internal developers. Because that's what
C-
PHP is coded in.
you could read C. Like you could
Yeah.
sit down, you could read it and know what it's doing. It's the sitting down and writing it.
It's actually deceivingly simple to read. Like it's because it's such I always lose track. That's a high level language, right? Or low level.
I think lower level, because
Low-
PHP is built on top of, like, it's a
Right.
C style language, but it's a
Right.
little,
So it's like
I mean, it's not low level, but it's lower.
so much of it is like very basic. Like it like when you know what you're looking at, like look up how they do arrays, for example, and you find that code block, and it just seems like almost too simple how they coded it most of the time. And I know things like the JIT compiler, like notice you don't hear a lot about the PHP JIT compiler anymore because like the person that understood it is no longer coding in internals. But yeah, it's one of those more complicated pieces of PHP internals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, do it, man. Learn C. I mean, it's kind of a ancient language, not a whole lot of new things you see, but there's tons of old things that use it, and that's where the money ends up being.
Lots of things built on top of it.
Yep.
For sure.
All right. I'm going to end the stream. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.